Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me today in this live webinar on natural treatments for hemorrhoids according to Ayurveda. So, uh, hemorrhoids is a very painful condition. A lot of times, if it progresses too much, you can also have fistula or tear in the rectum, and often surgery then is required. So, you don't want to delay treatment for hemorrhoids, which unfortunately most people do. They put it off as long as they can, even with the pain, even with the bleeding. They'll put it off, and then often, they feel there's no choice but to do surgery and have it removed, but it can come right back if you're not addressing the causes. So we're going to cover today the common causes of hemorrhoids, symptoms, and of course, if you have hemorrhoids, you'll know the symptoms, but you should really be aware, take special note if you have hemorrhoids, whether they're internal, external, bleeding, or non-bleeding. Those are the categories. Uh, but you should really take note, like I said, of the causes because you caused it. I don't believe that hemorrhoids are hereditary. It's not an organ. It's a tear in your rectum. And the understanding what causes it or the types of hemorrhoids is very, very important to avoid it again. Then we'll cover some home remedies, which there are many home remedies here. It's not like some conditions where we talk about kidney failure, where you're not going to be able to do much on your own. You're going to have a good herbalist. But in hemorrhoids, there are many good and effective home remedies, and diet, which of course is really wrong diet, wrong foods, poor digestion, hard stools, and diarrhea are the main causes of hemorrhoids. So we have to definitely cover the diet. And then, of course, we have some internal and external uh, herbal products that are taken that can really speed up the healing of hemorrhoids. And over the years, of course, I've had probably hundreds of cases, but it's been recently in the last year or two that had a very successful, high success rate, and I've integrated new products, and of course, having experience with so many clients helps because sometimes if something doesn't work, I can change it. I have variations of my herbs, and I learned that there's variations of every condition, and that's true for hemorrhoids. So let's talk about the causes. And we could start with the two main types of cause. One is, of course, the main cause is constipation. And in Ayurveda, this is Vatahara, created by Vata and the qualities of Vata, which are dry and hard. So the stool is dry and hard, and this over time aggravates the rectum and often the colon too, and descending colon. It's very often we get like IBS or even ulcerative colitis along with hemorrhoids. I have many cases where we have IBS and hemorrhoids together at the same time. So you have to treat them at the same time because the systemic cause often is that dry, hard stools, constipation, which nobody takes very seriously. And most people think their stools are just fine because they don't want to talk about it until they start to have hemorrhoids, and then they have to start thinking a little more deeply. And of course, it's that straining and pushing on the toilet that's creating this damage to the rectum. Now, the other main cause of hemorrhoids is actually the opposite, diarrhea, or we could just say loose stools. You don't have to have crazy diarrhea, but just loose and burning stools. And the qualities of that are generally there's a hot burning sensation, and often that type is a type that starts bleeding very quickly right from the beginning. Now, of course, there's the causes of the dry, hard stools are dry, hard foods, crackers, chips, nuts, protein bars, and insufficient liquid, juice, fiber. Low fat diet is a really common cause. People are trying to avoid fat to lose weight, which is false, a way to lose weight because there are healthy fats you could eat, not contribute to weight gain. But basically, a low fat diet is aggravating the condition because it creates dry, hard stools, and thus it's a known cause. Uh, and then, of course, if you have the diarrhea and the loose stools, you have to avoid the causes of the hot foods, spicy foods, chili peppers, cayenne peppers, and even things that are too salty. And sometimes people can have a combination of the two, where there's some uh, constipation and diarrhea, and often there's inflammation in the whole colon there. It becomes a more complicated case. Other causes of hemorrhoids, of course, during pregnancy, a woman can have hemorrhoids because of the uterus enlarging and then creating the constipation, and then this need to strain, and then having hemorrhoids. But also stress. When you're stressed out, you can't relax, and you can strain too hard, rushing on the toilet, pushing too quick. These all can be causes of hemorrhoids. But the main cause we find is constipation. So we want to avoid constipation at all costs and keep the bowels soft. The bowels must remain soft. You notice when you do one of my intake forms or you speak to me, I'm asking not just how many bowel movements you have, but the consistency. Are they soft like a banana, and are they hard like a golf ball? Hard like a golf ball, that eventually can damage your rectum, and of course, it could also lead to diverticulitis inside of your large intestine. Uh, and other type of stool is more like a loose, like a pile, and that, of course, is can have a burning sensation, pain. That also can lead to hemorrhoids. So you want those nice, soft, well formed, not pieces, well formed, soft stools like ripe bananas. Okay. Now, symptoms, of course, are pain and bleeding, itching, swelling, and even mucus in the stool. So, mucus in the stool, there's often some other inflammation there, or even can be parasites. Mucus in the stool is a sign of parasites. That's another subject. I do have a webinar on it, but we could basically classify the hemorrhoids in between internal or external, and bleeding and not bleeding. The more severe is usually external and bleeding. So generally, the bleeding has to be resolved first. And we have many home remedies for that. But first, I like to cover the diet. The diet, of course, should be a high fiber diet. Meat is very constipating and has zero fiber. So you should keep that in mind. So generally, we put people more on legumes and beans, and to get the fiber up, unless there's a digestive problem where they can't have those, then we may do mung dal. But you'd want to do green mung because you want the husk, and you don't want to do white rice that's constipating. You need the brown rice because you want the husk, because you want that high fiber diet to keep these bowels, the colon clean, keep the bowels firm, but not dry. And you need more oil and fat in the diet. If you're having dry, hard stools, this could mean you're having a low fat diet, insufficient fat. And sometimes it can mean you're having liver problems or gallbladder problems and having trouble getting bile out, and unfortunately not able to digest the fat, even though you're consuming the fat. But you see funny things like people have gallbladder attacks, so they stop all fat, and then they have hemorrhoids. So you didn't. Now they have two problems. So it's not a really sufficient, suitable cure for any condition to be on a zero fat diet. And one of the side effects of doing so can be hemorrhoids because of the dry, hard stools. So you want a lot of fruit. A lot of people are avoiding fruit instead of stacking on nuts, crackers, chips, which are hard, dry, and constipating. You should have juicy fruit, not dry fruit, unless you're having diarrhea. Then you can have dry fruit and dry crackers to try to absorb and firm up the bowels. And even if you're having diarrhea, you could have white rice because it's constipating. So, the diet has to be different based on the person's bowel movements. If you're having a constipation, then you're better to have the high fiber diet with the brown rice and the green mung. And if you're having diarrhea, then of course you want white rice, which is and dry, not soupy. And if you're having dry, hard stools, you want soupy rice, soupy things with a lot of oil and fat. And if you're having diarrhea, you want more dry foods and more raw vegetables. So there is a major difference in the diet depending on the individual. And of course, if you're having loose stools and diarrhea, you shouldn't have any spicy or hot food. So really, nobody with hemorrhoids should have chili pepper, cayenne pepper, or too much black pepper, not even raw garlic. maybe a little onions. It depends on the case. If you're bleeding and it's painful, the more bleeding and burning sensation you have, then you may not even be able to do onions and garlic. If you don't have any bleeding or burning sensation, then probably cooked onions and garlic will be fine, but not like raw garlic, raw onions. I saw people who've taken like strong herbs like oregano oil for their cold, and then of course they aggravated their hemorrhoids. You can't be taking even hot, spicy herbs like chai. Alcohol, of course, is also a problem. But fresh figs are good. Applesauce is good. Pears are good. Bananas can be a little constipating, so bananas are better if you have loose stools. And figs, blueberries, strawberries are better if you have constipation. But most people need more fat in the diet if they're having constipation and dry stools, and most people need more fruit and juicy fruit, even some fruit juice like some mango juice or prune juice or soaked apples or applesauce or soaked prunes or soaked raisins. But everything should be soft and juicy. The foods should be soupy when you have constipation. And you shouldn't have too much raw vegetables. So, and like I said, no dry if you're constipated, and nobody should have no dry foods, and nobody should have hot, spicy foods at all, particularly if there's bleeding. Now, we have many home remedies that can be done. Probably the best home remedy is just aloe vera. We have aloe vera here. We don't sell it, but I do have the bottle. And aloe vera can be put directly on external hemorrhoid. It can sting a little bit if you have a bleeding hemorrhoid, but it will help it heal. And you can also take aloe internally. It's a mild laxative and also a very helpful. And you can also do a spitz bath. That's where you put your body in, like lie in the bathtub and some warm water on your back. And then you have like a little bucket of cold water and you squat down in that cold water, and that cold shrivels up the hemorrhoid and you're able to push it back in. Now, there's variations on that home remedy, which I'll talk about, and that is putting baking soda in the cold water. Baking soda's quality is astringent, and astringent makes it tighten up, and that's very effective. And we actually have a powder we call alum here. We get it from India. I'm not sure if it's available here. External hemorrhoid powder. When hemorrhoids are external, you put a couple tablespoons in a couple gallons of cold water with a little ice, and then spit in it for 2 or 3 minutes. And that this astringent quality makes the hemorrhoid shrivel up small, and then you put a little oil on your hand and you can push it back in. If you taste it, oh man, it's like not sour. You know what the word astringent means when you've had it. It's like super strong baking soda, but people can do it with baking soda. And you can also put coconut oil up there in the rectum with your hands. Make sure you wash your hands first, clean your nails, and put, after each bowel movement, put some coconut oil in the rectum to lubricate it. Even and of course, coconut oil has some antibacterial qualities, so hopefully it prevents it from getting worse or infected, which is always a risk with hemorrhoids and fistula. So, aloe vera internally, externally, sitz bath, cold water, hot bath into cold water with a little baking soda, and then putting coconut oil around in the rectum area to lubricate it. These are home remedies. Now we have herbal products. And this is the main one that we give to people, and it's hemorrhoid formula. There you go. And look, first ingredient, aloe vera, because aloe vera is healing and a laxative and softens the stool. But next you got haritaki, bibitaki, amlaki. That makes up triphala, 3 herbs that are very cleansing. And then nagkesar. We're going to talk about that. That's to stop the bleeding. And sometimes I'll add more to a formula. And kanchnar guggulu, this reduces down the size of the hemorrhoid. Kanchnar guggulu is also used for tumors, growths, and cysts. So it's really reducing down things. And then alum is what I was just talking about. There's just a very little bit in there, and this got that astringent tightening quality. So there's a little bit you're taking internally with this formula, really quite a magical formula. formula. If there's a lot of bleeding, then I often can get this. This is nagkesar here, and nagkesar is known to help the bleeding. So if you have a lot of bleeding, there's a few things I can do. I can put this in a larger jar with a little bit extra nagkesar. Often I'll take a 4-ounce jar like this and put it in a large jar and make some alterations to it, like more nagkesar if there's bleeding, maybe more aloe, more triphala. Uh, and I also, another trick, if it's bleeding, I get nagkesar and I mix it with ghee and put it in a jar. And then you put that on the hemorrhoid, and that helps it to stop bleeding quite quickly. And then we have another substance that's really a miracle formula, and we call it healing ghee, and it's called Jadiyati Grita. This is for wounds, cuts, ulcers, burns, boils, insect bites, and heals hemorrhoids. This is a magical formula, and people have told me they bought multiple products online, YouTube and the health food store, and tried many products. Some of them I'm sure helped, but many people told me this was the most effective thing they ever had on putting on their hemorrhoids. And in fact, 4 years ago, very much I just gave you that, and I had a different hemorrhoid formula. I think I've revised it over time, but I was still getting pretty good results. But now I have other tools as well, including the alum powder. And another thing I do, if it's bleeding, like I said, I get the ghee and mix it with more nagkesar, and they put that on for bleeding. Now, if a person's big and heavy and the hemorrhoid's very big, sometimes I'll use at night triphala guggulu, and improves metabolism, circulation, detoxifies the lymph. But that's the guggulu in there, which make it gray. And there's the triphala, vipataki, amlaki, haritaki, plus a little guggulu. So, sometimes I use that as well, or sometimes I'll mix some of these two formulas together. That's usually for a kapha person, big, heavy, large hemorrhoid. So each person, gets a different set of those products. But the goal is to keep the bowels soft through the diet and the herbs, and then be treating it every day externally and be taking some herbs internally. And this is very fast. It's 1 week, 2 weeks, pretty much done. Now, of course, you have to be careful. I've had a lot of clients who were very happy even after 1 week, but they didn't stick to it, or they didn't stick to the diet. They went back to their bad eating habits again, crackers, nuts, chips, too much meat in the diet. We're talking, when we say meat, we mean even poultry and fish, because there's no fiber in these substances, and they can lead to constipation and prevent wounds like ulcerative colitis and hemorrhoids and fistula from healing. So generally, we have to put a person on a more, I'm not going to say vegetarian, because we're going to give them ghee and butter. In most cases, you need a little bit more fat in the diet to keep things lubricated, and ghee and butter are fine, but we don't want that meat, poultry, and fish. We want legumes, lentils, mung dal, because they have more fiber and they don't aggravate the colon or lead to constipation. So I hope that gives you more hope and understanding that hemorrhoids is very easy to treat. Many people have treated it at our home by changing their diet, changing their eating habits, just eating, quote, better, and not going out to eat and eating white bread and other junk food, and eating more at home, home cooked meals, more cooked foods, more fruits, more vegetables, and then maybe just put some aloe on it. You could heal it on your own. I mean, the advantage with me is I can just help you do it quicker and faster, and probably have less chance of it reoccurrence, and you won't be guessing what to eat, because I can tell you exactly. You won't have to shop around for different hemorrhoid creams, because I can pick the right one for you. Even I can make one for you. So I hope that gives you hope. I hope you share with other people, and feel free to contact me if you would like assistance with any health condition, and especially with hemorrhoids, internal, external, bleeding or not bleeding. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and I wish you all the best of health and happiness. God bless you all. Okay, that was it. Less than 30 minutes. My shortest webinar in a long time. Easy subject. I think we'll end the YouTube streaming now. All right.